And it's still setting up the Zoom.
Just let me know.
Okay. And we are live.
Oh, good morning, parents. Good morning. I am Micheale Chappelle, and we are delighted that you are here this morning to join us for Math Chats for Parents. I'm here with my wonderful colleague.
Hi, Dean. Hi, Micheale. I'm sorry, guys. I call her Dean because that's what I've known her for so long. But hi, Micheale. How are you?
I am wonderful this morning. I'm wonderful.
Okay, you ready to get started? Hey, Micheale, will you introduce yourself? Let the people know who you are.
Well, good morning, parents. And you know, as most educators, we wear a lot of hats, right? And we are very delighted that you have come to listen to us this morning, share a little bit of our wisdom with you about enhancing your child's math learning during the summer, in this summer boost that we're calling it. I'm Micheale Chappelle, as I said earlier, and I'm a 38-year educator, veteran educator of high school and mostly university years. I've been at the teaching at 3 universities for over 33 or so years, and I've worked with thousands of teachers literally, and I can't even begin to count the number of students in enhancing their math learning and teaching in classrooms. I am an author of teacher resource books, and also a business owner, as well as a voice and on-camera actor. And we are just delighted to be here with you this morning to give you a little bit of some insights into how to help your children over the summer be ready for school in the fall. And so I'm really, really delighted to be working with my colleague and mentee and friend, Mrs. Mel. So why don't you introduce yourself, Miss Mel?
Thank you, Micheale. I'm going to get this by the end of this 20-30
series,
minutes.
right?
Micheale. Okay, so I've been working as an educator for this will be my 18th year in schools. For the first 15, I was working as a classroom teacher, 4th and 5th grade primarily. And so from there, I became an interventionist working in the RTI program, and now I'm an instructional coach. Last year, math instruction, and this year I'll be doing reading and math. So I work with teachers. So Micheale trained the teachers in school, and then I come back and help new teachers as well as veteran teachers put in the practices that they learned and new strategies to improve their classroom instruction. I'm also a mom and a wife, and I'm also an author, yay. And so, yeah, that's what I do. I still love teaching. I still pull on Micheale for a lot of resources, and she knows so many things, like she knows all the things math. And so it's been great. And I'm just going to roll over a little bit, talk about how I got into this field a little bit. So growing up, my dad was great at math. He was one of those guys that, his name is Melvin. He's one of those guys that when you talk about numbers, he's like, okay, well, if you have $100,000 times 35%, it's, and he would just kind of know the numbers off the top of his head. He always talked about numbers. However, I was not very good at math at all. I remember being in Mr. Sanchez's room at Whitthorne Middle School, and across the hall was my math teacher. And I struggled with multiplication. I struggled with fractions. I struggled. I just didn't get it. So I remember sitting on my couch with my dad, learning my multiplication tables.
Good.
Years. It seems like it took for years. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and really was going to focus more on reading because I was more comfortable with that. I have a really good friend named Ashley who, and one of the things I struggled with was remembering all the formulas and remembering how to divide. I know we have all these little mnemonics and all those to help, but I just couldn't remember them. The problem was I couldn't remember them. So I could do the first problem, but by the time I got to the last problem, or by the time I got to the test, I didn't remember it from all the practices. So my friend Ashley invited me to several math trainings. As an adult, I was a teacher.
Good.
I was had been teaching at least 10, 12
Right.
years. And
Right.
even though I knew, I was teaching math, understanding all the processes and all the
Hmm.
processes that go with math, I struggle with. So,
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because and share that background, because I mean, even though I taught math for years, it was because of the challenge of math that I had that I really got into teaching mathematics.
Mhm,
I had a theater background, and my theater friends were wondering, why are you continuing to take calculus and all of this other stuff when you can just, take
mhm.
your basic little 1 or 2 math classes? And I thought, no, I'm just going to continue. But when I realized that I was going to teach, it turned out that I really wanted to teach math. And I've had a wonderful career doing that for, like I said, for, 38 years now. And so, and between the both of us, we like to say that we have what, 5 decades
5 decades
of teaching, right?
teaching math. Yeah, yeah.
So, but even though parents, you're listening to our first math chats that we're offering, my little cheat notes are not staying up here. This is not the first time Mel and I have chatted about math. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
chatted over the years about math, and have been excited about math, and really, really here. Our purpose today in coming to you with these chats is to share our passion that we have to help support parents, and particularly parents of our brown and Black kids, African American kids. That's been my focus over the years in terms of research, looking at students of color, and particularly African American students. And one of the things that we quickly realized when we went into the pandemic, Mel and I called us like, what are the parents going to do? Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to the math learning and learning in general? I guess a lot of educators were concerned about, but we were in particularly concerned about the math learning.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to talk with you about: reducing the fears, thinking about how to make math relevant, and just getting to a point where you can appreciate math in our daily lives, and share that with your children as you help to get them ready for the fall with the critical thinking, with the mathematical reasoning, and all those processes, as Mel mentioned, that we need to have them ready for. So a little bit about our purpose. Like I said, we wanted to sort of reduce the fear of math amongst households. Mel, we heard a lot of little jokes, if you will, about teaching math in the pandemic.
And the pandemic.
Oh my goodness. It was interesting. We heard a lot of celebs talk about
Oh, yeah,
how hard it
absolutely.
was. Oh my goodness. You want to talk with some about that?
Uh, so there's one video out there on YouTube, and it says, and many of you may have seen it. It says, Johnny has 7 apples, and it's a subtraction problem. And there's like a high school student, and she's like, Johnny has 7 apples. He gives his friend Amy 3 or something. And this teenager's using her fingers trying to figure out 7 minus 4. And her mom is going ballistic. I've worked too hard not to know. And she gets louder and,
Yes, yes.
louder and louder and louder.
Because
It's just really
the
funny.
the louder is really interesting, because as teachers, we walk that when students don't understand, right? What do we tend to do? We say it slower and we get louder. It was like, no, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. There is a way that we can help, and we even experienced a lot of celebrities
That's right.
who were, who said, man, I'm trying to figure out how to teach this math to my kindergartner or my second grader or my high school students, and that's all out there. If you're wondering about it, you just
Yeah.
go Google it, and you'll find,
Yeah.
celebs who didn't want to
Was it
teach
Shonda
math during the
Rhimes?
pandemic.
Yeah, we had Shonda Rhimes and
Oh, Shonda
yeah.
Rhimes is paying y'all a lot of money as teachers. Shonda said that teachers needed to be making $1 billion.
Yeah.
And actually, it's interesting. I heard Jimmy Fallon just recently make a song out of that I think it was for Teacher Appreciation Day. He said they
Yeah.
need to be making $1 billion a week. This is the way she said it. But so if you think about it, we were thinking in terms of having this sort of empathy for the challenge that parents are going to, we're going to have during this pandemic, trying to keep math learning, science learning, and reading, language arts, all of the other subjects that are important too. But we're just going to focus on math today.
That's right.
Amen. And but we recognize that that was a challenge for parents, and we wanted to. And we said, gosh, if celebs are, talking this way, and they have, different resources that the so-called, other parents or average parent, if you will, might not have, what are parents going to do? What are they faced with? So we wanted to come to you with some ideas about mathematical thinking and processes and ways to make math relevant, Mel, right?
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I have a son, he's going to the 5th grade. And when the pandemic hit, my math brain went off and I was like, okay, let's do some math. I even put a post out there where Mikey was painting the door that I needed painted. But I was telling Micheale that I had a friend to give me a call and ask about, I needed some blinds. And she said, could you measure your windows? So I told Micheale, I said, I want to see if I had Mikey measure these windows. Now, Mikey's learned about perimeter. He's learned about area, but it was an opportunity for him to apply what he learned. So I gave him the measuring tape, and he was like, okay, now what do I do with this, Mom? Like, so I kind of talked him through it, and he went to his room and thought about it. And we came back and had this discussion about, the perimeter of the windows, the area of the windows. And he kind of struggled through that. Terminology or math term that we use in schools is a productive struggle. But eventually he got to the point where he understood, that what I was doing in class with that window on that piece of paper was the same thing I was doing with measuring these windows.
I love that. I love that.
A great example of being able to take what they learned and apply it in an everyday situation.
Yes. And that's what we want, because typically students, whether they're in elementary parents or whether you have elementary kids or middle school kids or even high school kids, the tendency is to sort of separate what they learn at school in mathematics with what might be happening in real life. And I love how you talk about, he made that connection, because we really that's what we want students to do, is to see that math is really relevant to our everyday lives. And when you think about, and one of the topics that we're going to talk about just very quickly in this first episode of Math Chats for Parents is this notion of problem solving. Problem solving has been a construct, and this is kind of what Mikey was doing. He was solving a problem of how do I get the perimeter and the area of this window? And it may be a small problem to us as adults, but maybe not. If you're painting, or if you want to put a film over the window, or if you want to replace the window or whatever, you've got to take those measurements and go with it, right? And so problem solving, we have there are 4 steps, right, Mel, in problem solving?
That's right.
And we, and you can look this up, parents. It's understanding the problem. It's then coming up with a solution to the problem, coming up with several, not the solution, but coming up with strategies, shall I say, to the problem, several strategies to look at. And then taking one of those strategies and carrying that thing out as best you can. And then once you come up on a solution, you kind of look back and think, okay, how did that work? Could it have worked better? So forth and so on. And Mel, we have been, our country, in terms of what we've gone through with the COVID and the pandemic, and now that we're upon and looking at some of the protests and the racial tensions, we're living out problem solving, if you will, right now in our daily lives. And parents, we want you to know that that's a process that is taught across K-12. Is problem solving, those 4 steps that we outline. But we want students, in terms of promoting their math thinking, you can do this at home by just simply asking students, okay, if you solved a problem, whether it was fixing your bike, whether it was fixing how to mow the yard to make the money over the summer, whatever kids do, what are the processes you go through? What are the steps that you go? Break down those steps. You want to talk more about that? What does it do, Mel, to help kids break down those steps in problem solving?
Yeah, it's really important that kids can see flexible ways of solving problems, not just
Mm-hmm.
um, like going back to my original example, not just having an algorithm or knowing how to work the problem, being able to solve it in more than one way is really important.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
and it teaches them how to um, think
think,
outside of what they already know. It's not just
yes.
2 times 2 is 4. Is I have two groups of two that's going to equal 4. Or I
Mm-hmm.
was telling Michelle, even at the grocery store, we know that the prices have increased.
Yes,
Coming home and saying, Mikey and Milan, it cost us $5 more than it cost us, last week to purchase
mm-hmm.
this ground turkey. What will
Mm-hmm.
how much more was that? I guess what we're trying to say is it doesn't have to be something in a workbook to
Oh, right.
it doesn't have to be workbook problems for you to be able to solve mathematical problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it can really help you long term when it comes to the next grade,
That's
when
true.
when it comes to your elementary or your middle or your high school students.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. See, and that's the beauty of it. And that's what the whole purpose of math learning is for, so that you can apply it to your daily lives. If you think about the problem that our country is facing, well, what did we have to do in terms of those steps? We had to stop and we had to understand. Well, what we had to get information in front of us. We had to ask questions. What information do we have as it related to COVID in particular? We really had, I mean, we had several press conferences and things like that, but students, children, parents, your children need to see that those processes that they learn in school, they are very much reflected in real life. And as it relates to that example, we had to go through just under getting our heads wrapped around what the problem was, right? And then we had to think about, well, what are some strategies that we're going to do to carry this out? To carry this problem out. And there are different strategies for different things. Different states had different strategies, different cities perhaps had different strategies. We all were sort of working under the guidelines of the CDC and, from what the federal government shared with us and whatnot. But my point is that it was a problem that reflected that whole steps. Now, when you look at information about problem solving steps, you'll find that people have added to them and they've got 6 steps and 7 steps and 8 steps. It's not about the steps. It's really about the process, right? It's about going through that. And there's so much opportunity for students, for children. Now we're going to say students. So just like Mel might say dean every now and then, I will definitely say students every now and then. But it's about walking through that process. It's about understanding that, oh, okay, if I have a problem, what's the famous tagline, Mel, from the Apollo 13 movie? I always love it. You remember that famous tagline that
What was
Tom
it?
Hanks said?
Uh, Something, we have a problem.
Yeah, Houston.
Houston, we
Yes,
have
he
a
says,
problem.
Houston, we have a problem. And I always like to ask, when I taught teachers, I always like to ask, well, why was it a problem? And they're kind of look and they scratch their heads and like, well, we don't know why it was a problem. It's a problem. And then someone will eventually say, well, they really didn't have a strategy for it.
Yeah.
They really didn't have a solution. They didn't anticipate it. They didn't have necessarily a contingency plan. And, and that's when it's a problem. We're like, whoa, how did we get here? And so it's not, I love what you said, Mel. It's not just about what's on the book. It's not just about what's on the worksheet. It is about, okay, how do I take this process and extract it to a real life setting? And so that example that you shared with Mikey, about Mikey measuring that window, or even, trying to figure out, okay, what percentage have these prices gone up in the grocery store? In percents and fractions. Students don't like those too well. They're like, oh no, we're used to the calculator. But even decimals, You know, that's a form of, you know, rational numbers that we students need to have a good handle on.
Yeah.
And we're going to come to you with a series. We're doing a series of these chats with you parents over the next few Saturdays at the same time, and share with you some insights of mathematical processes and how you can easily adapt that at home to help your child's what critical thinking skills, their
Creativity.
mathematical, yeah, the creativity. Oh yeah, talk about the creativity, Mel. I know
Yeah.
we only have a few more minutes, but chat about that.
Yeah. So it's finding different ways to solve problems.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes we think creativity can only be in the arts or in, you know, if you're, let me say this: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics all have a level of creativity, probably
Yes.
more than what we actually know. That's going back to
Hmm.
that problem solving model of
Hmm.
finding creating this plan so that and it may not look like your neighbors, but you get to the same solution. So
Right.
being creative in your math. And I do want to plug this real quick. And this just goes back to the problem solving. It's just a strategy for parents for right now. We're going to give you like a small assignment, but if your
Oh
kids do
yes.
have textbooks that they received from their
The
schools,
districts, yeah.
yeah, from their districts, go into those textbooks and look for problems for them to solve. If you can't
Oh, that's
necessarily,
great.
if you're like, okay, I'm still figuring out this problem solving thing, go to your textbooks. Within them, have them work a few of those problems and ask them to answer them two different ways.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
working on that creativity, is working on the problem solving. But that's a right there immediate
Hmm.
a resource that you can use. Don't pitch them out. Just pull. You don't have to do a whole page. We were learning to do
That's
50
right.
pages, Dean, but we can do one. You can do one
Just
problem
do
a
it right.
day. Micheale, we
Hmm.
can do one problem and just allow them to explore that problem in different ways and ask them questions and have that mathematical.
That's right. And we really want you all to do that because we're going to be giving you
Yeah.
parents assignments that you can do to engage your students and involve them in it. And like Mel was saying, you just pick one. It might be a relevant problem related to something going on around the house. You may be painting, you may be doing a different project, rearranging the room, whatever it might be. There is some mathematics, I guarantee you, involved.
Yeah.
And so you will want to take that. And we're going to encourage you to write down some notes as to the process. Okay, how do we understand this problem? What kind of strategies we're going to come up with? We're going to pick one. We're going to try and, carry that strategy out. And then we're going to look back and see, hey, how did that work? Could we have done it using another strategy that would have helped us even more get to the final solution? Now, we're not going to stay with you long. We say it's 2020 and we want it to only really stay with you 20 minutes. However, we know that we can talk about this subject for a long time because
Long
Mel and I have chatted for hours, about
time.
math
That's
teaching
right.
and really having a heart for helping our parents help their children.
Yeah.
So we are just going to take time to leave now. Don't forget your assignment. We will make a plug. Mel, you're going to make a plug about our social media pages that parents you can go to, write a comment, give us some ideas of things that you would like to hear more about. Mel mentioned STEM. She mentioned that acronym. Well, you may be in a position, I've heard that acronym, but I don't know exactly what it is and what does it mean. And even though she shared science, technology, engineering, and math, you still might be like, I'm clueless. I don't know where does that fall within my household, right? Because we're concerned about how your household really wraps your head around, math learning and getting your students ready for the fall. That's our whole goal, is to help you not help your child not experience that slide so much, that melt that can happen in the summer where kids just purge everything, right, Matt?
That's
Right, Mel?
right.
They just purge everything. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with testing. I'm done with learning and whatnot. And I call it the big purge. They just get it out, get that information out. But the problem this year is that kids didn't have a chance to test. They didn't have a chance to review. Some will have gone, what, 5.5,
Mhm.
maybe even 6 months with not really having that regiment of
That's
school
right.
and learning.
That's
That's
right.
problematic in the fall because teachers are going to be on that, what we call the lickety split schedule.
Trying to get it done.
Trying to
Yeah.
get it done. And you want your child to be able to keep up.
Yes.
And if their
exactly.
critical thinking skills and math reasoning skills are where they are, then they'll be in a better position to keep up.
Yeah.
So Mel, I'm gonna let you take us out. And we certainly
Yeah.
thank you for joining us
Yeah.
for our first
Yeah. For our
Math
first ever
Chats
Chats for
for Parents.
Yes.
So where can they
Okay.
find us, Mel?
Please come back. Please join us here at our Math Chats for Parents at our Facebook page. You can also go to www.mathchatsforparents.com. We've got our website up. If you have questions, please scroll to the bottom of that page and ask any questions, elementary school through high, anything that you would like us to share. So we just thank you for joining us. Please share this with your friends and family. And
Right. You
very
know a
grateful.
parent.
Yeah, a parent. If they need to know some strategies about what to do, basically, what can I do before I get back to school to help our kids, please join us back here. Have
Please
a
join us.
fabulous Saturday. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.